Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.
With the cryptocurrency and utility token market down at new lows, everyone's asking whether securities tokens are the next big thing. We're here in New York City at a special event hosted by the World Blockchain Forum about securities tokens and ICOs. Let's go take a look. Why securities tokens and why now?
I think security tokens represent a large part of where this industry is heading. Digitizing real securities and digitizing real assets, we're going to see a lot more money pouring in.
We continue our coverage from New York City, and this time we're at the World Blockchain Forum, a special forum created to discuss securities tokens, which is the big theme for 2018. Bruce, you just came off the stage, very excited about securities tokens.
For sure.
Why are you so excited?
Well, I sort of grew up in this business. My mom was a stockbroker starting in 1977 when I was 5 years old. At 14, I got my first job at Dean Witter. At 19, I got my Series 7, and then I started my own firm. So I've done this. I've actually been registered with the SEC in some form or another for like 57% of my life. So, and then I got into Bitcoin 6 years ago. So the merging of the two is super, super interesting for me.
Why is it so interesting? I mean, when Bitcoin came about, it decentralized the power that the central banks had.
Right.
And that was what we all bought into.
Yeah.
What's so exciting about securities tokens?
A lot of people don't realize how securities trade right now, and they think that the issuer of the security has a ledger, and they don't. The ledgers are done by extra trusted third parties, really trusted fourth parties. And that's what's really exciting to eliminate. For one thing, for a real use case on Wall Street, it's trillions of dollars that would be put in the hands of people where they can't control that now. And then the second part of that is that because it's a good system and enables liquidity, it opens up doors to trillions of dollars in other capital from other securities issued.
Okay, now let's talk about the practical launch of securities tokens. There's a lot of talk about it. Securities are coming to the market. T0 is coming to the market. Order book, playbook. When do you think securities tokens are going to be a real thing?
It should be pretty soon. There's already some now, so it's already started. There are securities tokens that exist like BCAP and some others, and there's more every day. You go to conferences like this, because of the way that the writing is on the wall, that you really have to follow these securities laws, and because companies like Coinbase and T0 are leaders in the field and talking about this, people see that this is the way to go. So the kind of utility token ICO is sort of dying down, and people are looking at this. And then also really serious existing publicly traded companies are looking at this. So I think it'll be soon. I mean, certainly in the next 6 to 12 months, you're going to see a lot of exciting changes.
But now we have to build a whole big infrastructure. Example, custodians. I mean, when can you see a government pension fund investing in a securities token? They're going to need to know that there are reliable wallets, that there are reliable exchanges that provide liquidity, that there's a whole layer of service providers that are built. Now, surely that's not going to be built in 2018.
Yeah, it'll be an evolving process. The big investors like pensions and sovereign wealth funds, they'll probably be a little bit later because they do have more concerns. It's just like Bitcoin. The first people, a lot of the early people who bought Bitcoin did it through all kinds of weird ways, by email or using Dawala to send money to something else, to send it to Gox. And then you'll have companies like Coinbase who are already doing that. A lot of people are probably just going to trust Coinbase to have their securities token. So it'll evolve.
So let's talk about the practical side of things. Is there a blockchain that could support NASDAQ type activities?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few projects that are working on building that, and I'm an investor in several of them. So far, Bitcoin could do it. Bitcoin is a pretty robust chain and very, very difficult to attack, and all of the good security things about Bitcoin. And if you look at Lightning Network and atomic swaps, what that will enable you to do is have assets that could trade on Bitcoin or similar chains and be able to have very high capacity, which actually really well suited for this, because you'd have just brokers opening Lightning channels with other brokers, and that would enable you to have quite a bit more capacity than you would, if everything was on chain.
So today, if you were launching a security token, would you launch it on Bitcoin blockchain?
If I did it right now today, probably, yeah. I'd probably consider Bitcoin. I like Ethereum Classic, especially now with the news with Coinbase. I think the reason I don't like Ethereum as much is because of the DAO hack. It's a little bit, or the DAO attack. It's a little bit centralized. I didn't really like that rollback, but Ethereum's a good one. And there's a few others. Ravencoin, EOS, ADA. There's a lot of projects, varying degrees of ambition. Some of them are really looking to do a lot. They're all risky because this is crypto. Even Bitcoin is risky. It's still early stages. We don't know.
Let's talk about that for a second. I know you're a Bitcoin maximalist. I know your history is in Bitcoin. I know you run the Satoshi Roundtable, so it couldn't be more obvious. Now,
the maximalists are about to kick me out, though. They're going to kick me out of the centralized maximalist club because I own all. So
let's
I'm maximal-ish.
Let's break up the new world into three things: cryptocurrency, securities tokens, and utility tokens. What happens to utility tokens when securities tokens become mainstream?
I think utility tokens, as you see them now, would be different because most utility tokens are really just securities that they tried to avoid securities law by saying, yeah, we're a utility. And that's not a great model. Some utility tokens will actually have real utility, and that could be a whole new market. Who knows what this cool token blockchain thing can do? There may be 10,000 tries at making something interesting. Maybe 500 of them will work, and it could be anything from airline miles to a million other things that people are working on. So yeah, utility tokens should be a thing, and then there will be kind of platforms like Ethereum, which is sort of a utility token that allow people to do other stuff on that chain. And then you'll have securities, which will be just like securities are now. It could be stocks, bonds,
new instruments that we haven't thought of.
Debt contracts, derivatives, sharing of profits in a certain thing through smart contracts and everything. So that'll be cool. And then cryptocurrencies, I think there'll be probably a few that become the major currencies.
So if I were to ask you, the most exciting bucket, cryptocurrencies, securities tokens, or utility tokens, which one excites you the most?
I'd say probably cryptocurrency excites me the most from a anarchist, freedom, privacy, cypherpunk angle. But as somebody who kind of grew up in securities tokens and spent my whole life working on it, to merge those two, professionally with the time I spend, securities tokens is where my focus is.
For those who don't know me, I'm Trevor. I'm the CEO of Polymath. We are the world's first and the world's largest security token platform that tries to make it easy for anybody to launch a security token. And after realizing how hard it was to do it myself, there was a big problem, but also an even bigger opportunity. And I'm very excited today because we are going to be launching our product on stage.
One of the pioneers of securities tokens on the blockchain is Trevor Kucoin. He's been standing up on stages for the last 18 months and preaching securities tokens. Today here at the World Blockchain Forum, they unveiled their system and they showed us a demo. Trevor, great demo. We know it all works. We know you guys have software. But when are the people going to come to the party? When are we actually going to see securities tokens?
Well, I'm glad you like this. This is a special moment for us. Everything in blockchain is new, and there's so much infrastructure to be built, especially in our space of regulated securities. You have to have exchanges, you have to have legal professionals, you have to have transfer agents, you have to have custody. So all these things we've been working with our partners to build simultaneously, and we think now is the inflection point where the real kind of traction starts to be shown in the market.
Have you guys actually done any securities tokens issued?
So we have our platform live today, so that's our main net, and starting now we're going full speed ahead to get as many 2018 STOs out the door that we can.
Now, you're talking about 2018 STOs. We're in 2018, we're in June 2018, we're halfway through the year. Is the market ready for STOs today? Let me clarify my question. We don't have a real custodian yet. We don't have a real exchange with liquidity yet. I know T0 are coming online and a couple of others coming online. Coinbase made an announcement. But is the market ready? If you were to do an STO tomorrow, is the market actually ready?
I think the market's a lot more ready than it was this time last year. There's a whole new infrastructure that we're building. Wall Street wasn't built overnight, it takes time. I think we're seeing a lot more excitement in the security token space. But as soon as you move into the kind of this regulated paradigm with the SEC and other global regulatory bodies, it gets messy. And part of what we're trying to do is simplify the whole process. And we truly believe that if we can do kind of what Ethereum did for ICOs, which is just make it easy, have a platform that others can launch on top of, we're trying to do the same thing for STOs.
Now you mentioned the SEC. Where is the SEC when it comes to securities tokens on the blockchain? Have they lumped them into the same category as normal securities?
My take this whole time has been, everyone's like, oh, security tokens, what are the regulators going to say? What are they going to do? But I think the reality is they've already spoken. Tokens, for the most part, are securities. And what does that mean? It means we have to follow existing securities laws. You have to register, you have to find exemptions to file under. That's what we did at Polymath. We were one of the first ICOs to file a Form D. We did a Reg D exemption for our sale. And we're trying to lead by example and show people that you don't have to run away from regulators. So if we think the regulators are going to love our product, we already have shown a lot of them, and they're very positive because we're interfacing with the existing frameworks. We're giving integrity to the regulatory rules that they already have, and we think that's important.
So that's it kind of for me. I'm going to take a little break and call Thomas on stage. Thomas is our Chief Product Officer. When Thomas came on board, I tasked him with a challenge. Can you make this hard problem of launching a security token easy? Can you make it kind of elegant and beautiful? And that's what we're going to show you in a second. So let's welcome Thomas on stage.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks, everyone. So, like Trevor indicated, what we've realized is that launching a security token is a multi-dimensional problem that is also a transforming problem.
Now, for our viewers that don't know what Polymath actually does, could you just spell it out for us in 1 minute?
I can do it in one sentence. We make it easy for businesses to launch compliant tokens. So our thesis is that tokens don't just have to represent abstract notions like protocols, they can also represent real assets. So commodities, stocks, real estate, all of these assets can and will be tokenized. And the reason is because tokens provide a lot of benefits to capital markets. They can bring liquidity to illiquid markets. They can provide more efficiency in the form of eliminating your back office. You can have proxy voting directly on smart contracts. You can have dividends automated. So it's kind of like a lot of people don't know this, Wall Street and the infrastructure it lives on is outdated. It was designed and implemented in the 1980s.
What happens to utility tokens and cryptocurrencies as we know them today? Is this the reason why the cryptocurrency market is going down? Is it because we're about to see a new dawn, and that's securities tokens?
I think what we're seeing is that there's no floor in these tokens. There's no tangible asset that backs a lot of these coins. And we're going to see, a lot of frothy capital is going to leave just as quickly as it came in. So what we're proposing with Polymath is a new paradigm. It's tokens that have a floor, like there's an asset that has real market value.
So other than the protocols, the Ethereums, the Bitcoins, all the protocols, let's talk about the dApps, the utility tokens that are being built. Is this the death of the utility token? Should we take what Clayton says to heart when he says that he hasn't seen a utility token that doesn't look like a security?
I think there's two things going on here. There's two kind of mega trends. One is the emergence of security tokens. And utilities don't have to stop growing. They're going to still do well, but we're going to see an explosion of security tokens launch. I think I mentioned this to you last time. If just one major New York hedge fund, we're in New York right now, decided to tokenize, and we're speaking to some of them, it would double the entire crypto market overnight. That's just one fund. Forget about a sovereign wealth fund. So my point is, we're seeing this mega trend of security tokens emergent. We're seeing another mega trend of utility coins saying, wait a minute, maybe what we did is actually not a utility, it's a security, and we're having a lot of people kind of retroactively realize that they're a security. So when you add those two megatrends together, there's just one direction that this market is going, in our opinion.
Trevor, crypto is 10 years old today. Is securities tokens, or are securities tokens the first real use case for crypto?
The key here is, if we want to become a real ecosystem, 300, 400 billion, big deal. If we want to become like a multi-trillion-dollar asset class, we have to become regulated. That's the only way the big money is going to come in. Hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, they're not going to screw around with unregulated wild, wild west coins. They're going to want to see regulation. They're going to want to see protection. I had a meeting with some of the guys from Fidelity the other day, and they are just waiting with their finger on the trigger. They want to see a little bit more security. They want to see a little bit more custody being solved, that particular problem. And then they are ready to just flood the market with new capital. And I think that's what we need to become legitimized, and that's what we're trying to do at Polymath.
So that's Trevor from Polymath. He says you've got to be like the SEC and protect grandma. Put her into securities tokens. If you believe in securities tokens and you want more content, hit the subscribe button now.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Does seem like the next wave in the industry. What do security tokens and the new, what does that do to the price of anything?
Now, you've run many conferences about crypto. You've been around for a long time. You've run a lot of conferences with utility tokens. Have you lost faith in this concept of a utility token?
I think that it isn't as attractive to investors than security tokens and something more regulated. ICOs and utility tokens still have a purpose, hence the name utility. And there is a hybrid model that many companies are adopting where there's a utility angle and there's a security angle.
You're not as excited about utility tokens as you were a year ago.
No.
Why?
I usually don't take a position, so this is interesting to take a position. I'm not as excited because when utility token came out, this represented a massive paradigm shift that people can raise money through token sales. And then it was Wild West, and it still is Wild West. There needs to be a bit more structure here. And I think security tokens and the ability to securitize assets represents a big change. And you can still do ICOs, and you can still make utility tokens, but it's better now with this new wave.
And after being here for 2 days and seeing the speakers and catching up on all the talks, what do you take out of here?
Talking to many of the companies, their thesis and premise, and the companies they're building and their timelines, all are going towards the idea that security tokens will be a major part of the future. Yes, this is going to be a big part of the future. We're making our business around this. This is the central premise of the future. I agree with them.
When do you think securities tokens are going to be a big thing? Is it a 2018 thing, or is it a 2019 and 2020 thing?
The ease of making security tokens is getting better and better. We just watched Polymath give a demo where they showed how easy it was to create a security token. The exchanges will come online. There'll be a competition between NASDAQ and the traditional stock exchanges. Who's going to go first? And then if you can tokenize your company in seconds, minutes, hours, days, and do an IPO or sell access to that, we need infrastructure first, and we're seeing infrastructure. I think within the next 12 months we'll see, I would say 8 to 12 months we'll start seeing really all this promise. I think wallets also are a big part of the future. I don't know if you'll be paying for a Starbucks coffee with a Starbucks security token. I don't know that that's the case. You probably will pay with a Starbucks utility token.
You'll pay with Bitcoin.
Probably still. Bitcoin? Yes.
No, it's always good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Big round of applause for this panel.
Just off the stage is Mario Pazos from Security Tokens Partners, and he spoke about how excited he is about security tokens. I'm going to challenge him a little bit. Mario, why are you so excited about securities tokens?
I think these new instruments are going to be able to allow companies to completely transform the way they raise capital so far. Capital formation nowadays has been highly illiquid by the issuance of either equity or debt instruments that, they became liquid 5, 7, 10 years after an investment. With these type of new instruments and the liquidity in the markets, for the first time in history, investors are going to be able to get in and get out of investments.
Now you're talking about private companies, you're not talking about publicly listed companies, because they've been liquid for a while. Okay, so the question that I ask all of our guests is, when do you think securities tokens are going to be a big thing?
I think realistically, when the market brings liquidity, and therefore there's going to be more interest in this space, it's going to be next year. I think this year is the year of formation, where all the partners and ecosystems being created, but the actual liquidity and trading and volume is going to come next year.
What do we need to build in order to make securities tokens a big thing? Before government agencies, pension funds, provident funds all start investing in securities tokens, what infrastructure needs to be built?
I think a couple of agents need to actually come about. The first one being, of course, highly regulated and compliant exchanges. Without those, there's no liquidity. Without those, there's no market. So those are going to be coming about towards the second half of this year, in my point of view, starting to trade a couple of tokens here and there. The second is custodianship. It's extremely important for these institutional investors to know that their investors are actually properly being held, and they're not going to be losing, the assets that they invested moving forward.
Okay, so let's talk about the two separately. You've got exchanges. We know T0 is coming online. Coinbase made an announcement that they're going to be a securities token exchange. Who are going to be the other big players in this game?
There's one that is called Open Finance Network. We happen to have a relationship with them, and they're coming about to the market this month in June, and they're going to start actually trading their tokens listed in the market. One of them is going to be Spice VC, Blockchain Science, and Blockchain Capital.
So those are the three tokens that everyone talks about: Science VC, BCAP, or Blockchain Capital, which was the fund that Blockchain Capital set up a while ago. Yeah. They thought it would be a utility token. It traded as a utility token for a while, but then the exchanges delisted it, and they said it's a securities token. Now, you guys are called security token partners. I assume that you guys help companies issue security tokens and do ICOs, but security ICOs.
Yes.
Are you getting much interest at the moment?
Yes, we're actually getting a lot of interest from both investors and issuers. The reason why we're getting interest from both is, let's start first with issuers. What they realize is there are new ways of raising capital that are not dependent upon just getting diluted offer equity in a company. In fact, they have a chance now for the first time in history to offer a token that could be potentially a revenue sharing or a dividend payment, or even you could potentially stripe some assets in a balance sheet and tokenize them, right? So there's a strong interest to raise capital with a new form without being diluted.
So unlike the old world where you could only have equity or debt or some kind of combination, you literally can tokenize every aspect of the business. The assets, the revenue, the debt, everything can be tokenized.
You're right, absolutely everything.
Are you still excited about utility tokens? Were you ever excited about utility tokens?
I actually was. As many of us, I actually was able to enjoy the ride of utility tokens and its appreciation and make a good investment in that. But I'm not longer excited at all about utility tokens. I think in most cases they're promising this network effect that never happens and ends up being an empty promise and just air. Now, with security tokens, you're actually offering asset-backed investments.
But asset-backed investments are never going to give you 10x, 20x, 30x returns. Utility tokens came as this asset class that promised investors this network effect and gave some investors 100x returns. Can we expect big returns from security tokens?
I think it depends in the valuation of the companies. In fact, what we have decided consciously is not to focus on startups because it's extremely highly difficult to value them. We want to focus on growth stage companies because we can actually do a DCF analysis, a discounted cash flow analysis, or a balance sheet analysis. And the reality is that if you properly value those companies, there's still a lot of upside to be created. We're seeing that even in the traditional markets with IPOs like Facebook, or Snapchat, and the like. So there's still upside. It might not be 10, 15, 50, 100x, but there's going to be upside.
So Mario was excited about utility tokens. He's no longer excited about utility tokens. He's much more excited about security tokens. I know the market's down, but get me on Twitter and give me your point. Are you excited about utility tokens or are you excited about security tokens? Let me know. I'm Crypto Man Run on Twitter. So Brian, the Bitcoin banker, how did you earn that title?
In 2013, when I came to Credit Suisse, I was the first investment banker on Wall Street to cover the Bitcoin industry. So there was no ICOs back then. There was no really mention of blockchain. It was just Bitcoin.
So you were working at Credit Suisse and you were covering Bitcoin?
That's correct. Yes, just advisory services. So I'm an investment banker. So I advise core teams and management teams on how to use now crypto.
Okay, so what are you doing today? You were a banker, you were working at Credit Suisse. Are you still working at Credit Suisse?
No, I spun out of Credit Suisse about 60 days ago to service the crypto markets from a full-service investment banking perspective. So we focus on equity, debt, and M&A, and utility and security tokens.
There are a lot of big names that are moving out of Wall Street into crypto. Now, you look at the prices today and you look at the market capitalization going down and down and down. I think today we're at about $275 billion. Do you ever think to yourself, I've made a bad decision?
No, not at all. We're at the very early stages of the crypto evolution. This will be a multi-trillion-dollar market cap. Whether it's utility or security tokens, we'll let the regulators figure that out.
but we're at the very, very early stages.
Now, when you say early stages, I agree with you, but this technology is now almost 10 years old. Are we still early stages, 10 years old?
Yeah, so crypto is, I believe it's actually three things. It's one, it's a technology, which is blockchain technology. Two, it's a financing mechanism through ICOs and now security tokens. And lastly, it is a philosophy. So those three things together is what makes up crypto, and those things have a long way to evolve.
Security tokens, everyone's talking about them as the next big thing for 2018. But are they a thing in 2018, or are we going to have to wait till 2019 and 2020 before we have the right infrastructure to run securities tokens on a mass scale?
Right. Right now, what we're seeing in the market is there's kind of three big hurdles to institutional investors. The first is custody, the second is liquidity, and the last is settlement. So the first two are infrastructure-based. People are building custody and liquidity solutions. And the last one is regulatory. We'd hope that the regulatory agencies would work quickly to remove the barriers and allow crypto, which is mainly peer-to-peer, to exist.
When you talk about the first two already being built, you're talking about custody and you're talking about liquidity.
They're being built.
So we know that T0 is coming online, and we heard that Coinbase made an announcement a week ago that they're coming online. But as yet, we still don't have liquidity. How long before we actually have liquidity?
Yeah, so I'm aware of, let's say, two handfuls of ATSs or entities that would like to be security token exchanges. So I think that over the next 12 to 18 months, you'll see those emerge, and then winners will evolve.
But you're talking 12 to 18 months from now?
I think so.
The Bitcoin banker, do you sometimes get called by your friends at Credit Suisse, and they often look at you like, you've gone to the dark side of things?
Well, certainly in the beginning. When I received the name the Bitcoin banker, it was in jest. People would mock me on the floor. And for many years, I wore that, and now it's who's laughing now.
We are at BCI Summit 2018, New York City Metropolitan Pavilion. Here we have some of the most exciting technologies in blockchain, a lot of cryptocurrency hedge funds, a lot of investors that are looking to get more exposure to digital assets. That includes different blockchain companies, includes cryptocurrencies, includes all types of other various instruments that are available to invest into in a digital asset space. Really what we're focusing on is connecting wealth managers and different portfolio managers with the new digital asset opportunities. We try to attract the actual portfolio managers to discuss their strategies, how it is that they're investing in these topics.
Crypto's plenty cool. I mean, we're in New York City right now. There is literally 3 conferences happening this week with multiple thousands of people in attendance.
Out of the ashes rise the phoenix of the next big multi-billion-dollar companies. The new Facebooks, the new Amazons will be crypto-backed. And the big investors, the big institutional money see this, so they're really getting involved right now. I think as the market starts to level out over the coming months, we'll start to see more action as it upticks again.
Everyone's saying it's going to hit that trend, that low, and I think it's reaching that low ball right now. But it's tough to say. There's news going on everywhere. Korea, China has its point of view. India is responding another way. So it's tough to say, I'll be very honest.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BCI Summit live with Crypto Man Ron.
You heard it from him first. I'm here at the BCI Summit getting some opinions of why the market is going down. So gentlemen, what happened this weekend?
Well, we've had a couple different things happen. One was we had a huge hack in Korea. 2 is we had a $34.5 billion acquisition of off-market crypto. And 3, we had huge market trajectory down pressure from a breadbasket of altcoins collapsing.
Hold on, let me stop you there for a second. You said a huge hack in Korea. I heard that only $40 million worth of tokens were stolen. Is that a huge hack?
Well, it's not as bad as the $400 million hack in Japan, but I have to tell you this. Korea sets the tone in terms of how comfortable we are with these markets. And when Korea gets hacked, the market gets skittish.
So are we saying that an exchange in Korea that is the 100th biggest exchange in the world was hacked for $40 million, and that took it down the entire market cap by $35 billion. What do you think?
I think we're trying to come up with excuses right now why things are happening, why bad things are happening, why capitulations are happening. I think we've seen a steady downturn over the last few weeks. This small hack, as you had said, is a small hack. I think it's just adding on to more nervousness, more skittishness. I think a lot of the institutional investors that we're all talking about waiting to come in are seeing this, and they're not going to come in right now. They're still going to wait it out. And while we're waiting for new blood to come in, a lot of the old blood is getting tired, and they're taking their gains where they can.
Okay, the over-the-counter market, how's that going?
Yeah, so what we're seeing happening in the on exchanges is not represented at all over the counter. So over the counter, we are seeing probably 10 times the volume of buyers than sellers. And what that tells me is that very wealthy individuals or institutions are getting ready to enter the space and want to do it at discount. Now, is some of that priced in? Is some of that market manipulation? I don't know, but I will say powerful, wealthy people are buying up crypto faster than they ever have before.
So why isn't that being reflected in the prices? I mean, you can only drive up the over-the-counter so long before it actually starts to reflect in exchanges.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons is there's still these like fat discounts that are coming in. So the discounts have fallen over the past month from, on billion-dollar transactions of Bitcoin, you were getting maybe 9, 10%. Now we're seeing closer to 3 or 4%. So one, we're seeing the margins shrink. And then as that happens, perhaps it will closer align with the on-exchange price. However, I personally believe that those groups, due to the fact that so little is in float on exchanges, can easily pump it up and see the the upside be captured through the market.
So what's it going to take for the market to turn?
Well, I think it's two things. One is that the OTC pressures are going to normalize over the course of the next couple of weeks. And two, I think for the remainder of the summer, you're looking at cheap altcoin summer, okay? But as that starts to taper out moving into August, we should see a rebound of Bitcoin moving back towards about 7,800.
So he's calling a rebound towards the end of the year. What's your feeling?
I feel that we're probably going to test 5,000, and at that point, we're going to start seeing a lot of miners going to say, do I need to keep these machines on, or is it becoming cost prohibitive for me to keep these machines on? So I think we're going to test a bottom. We haven't tested that bottom yet, and I think that bottom's going to come in the next 3 to 6 months. And I think then at that point, you're going to have people who say, do I actually believe in this technology? Do I see that there's a future for this technology, and should I invest in it for the long term? As family offices, as I run a family office, and I've worked in the family office space for over 10 years now, I've seen a lot of family offices year over year. Last year, they didn't know what a Bitcoin was. They always asked me, what is this? And now they know what a Bitcoin is. They understand what blockchain is, but they're still very concerned about regulatory issues. They're very concerned about custodial issues. And as we start getting more answers to those questions, I think they'll start coming in.
So we're not just ready yet. What's your opinion? Are we going to bounce soon?
Yeah, we're going to bounce. By the end of 2018, we're going to see the 20,000 levels again. My personal belief is that we're going to see 30,000. Look, the reason so much is done off exchanges is liquidity issues. I see a number of solutions popping up for that. Custodian issues will be solved through government intervention, as well as perhaps not government intervention. We hear rumors of, boats in international waters going to be offered as custodian solutions, and, that could be awesome. So I think that the fears that a lot of institutions have from getting into the space that is making them do things off exchange will be brought on exchange, and people will feel safe. Money is going to pump in, and then as more and more of these altcoins that are kind of up in the air whether or not they'll succeed or not do actually produce real products, people are going to get bullish, the world's going to be happy.
So that's it for today. You've got Bitcoin bottoming out at $5,000 because we're not ready for the institutions. You've got a cheap altcoin summer, and you've got custodians on yachts.
We have a huge amount of resources of capital that is waiting to flow into the space. The only way to really do it securely, at least in the US right now, is go abide by the regulations and really focus on bringing in institutional people through the accredited investors into the space.
Look, we've been in a bear pattern for a little while now. Obviously, there's a few concerns with what's been going on in terms of the SEC regulation. We're definitely overboiled in December, and so I had to come backwards. I think we're looking at probably another couple of months of that as it sort of finds its floor, and then we'll be back on track.
I would say 6,000, 6,400 is my speculation is the bottom. I don't think it's going to go below that.
In terms of the industry as a whole, we need regulation. We need to have the bigger players involved. We need to have this become more legitimate.
What you're seeing right now is the SEC shows no signs of loosening up on security tokens. So as a result, you're getting US-based companies that are just going to be raising from outside of the United States as a result, just meaning we as Americans don't get to participate, which is just a missed opportunity.
The G7 nations are going to join eventually. Cities like Dubai, they're trying to blockchain the whole city. You have Malta, the blockchain island right now. Singapore is really friendly with the banks.
And the trend that we want to see reversed is a lot of companies that are essentially US founders are just not raising from US investors anymore. Yeah, I don't want to see the American market missing out on the biggest technological revolution that's happened since .com.
If you believe in risk, you become a financial advisor. If you don't, you apparently become a lawyer. At least that's what my next guess is. David, where does that come from?
That comes from a very old saying, I don't know who it gets attributed to, but it's a true statement. Those who have more risk appetite, they go into venture capital, they go into the financial markets. You're a little more conservative, you become a lawyer.
So you gave me your business card, and there are a whole lot of lawsuits that you're working on, Coinbase, Kraken, BitConnect, Tezos. What do you actually do?
So in about 2014, I became what I have self-described as the crypto advocate. I started doing a lawsuit against an exchange in Florida. Big Paul Vernon stole about $10 million in cryptocurrencies in 2014. And since then, that's rolled into, was the only lawyer in America filing lawsuits against cryptocurrency exchanges at $500 a Bitcoin. When it hit 20,000, my position was vindicated. A lot more lawyers doing what I do today.
So what are you actually working on today? Tell us some of the stories that you're working on today.
So the stories today, I would say, Tezos is a big one. BitConnect is a big one. I mean, I don't know if you know what BitConnect was, but it's a great story of what's happening in cryptocurrencies. BitConnect started somewhere overseas, probably in India, and they were telling everyone if you gave them money, you would receive a token. Then they told you you would get 1% compounding a day, and if you gave them $250,000 plus, you would get 40% compounding a month.
Now, if I remember correctly, Vitalik tweeted that if it looks too good to be true, then it's got to be untrue.
Well, to give an example, Warren Buffett expects 6% a year. If you can get 10% guaranteed a year for 10 years plus, you'll have a job with Warren Buffett. So to get 1% compounding a day is absurd. To get 40% compounding a month is even more ridiculous. But they raised $1.6 billion in about 6 months.
Okay, now where do you come into all of this?
So I represent the largest class of plaintiffs. That case is I believe going to be the lead class is going to be appointed in the next week or two. I'll be the lead class action attorney appointed in that case.
Okay, let's talk about Kraken. So I see Kraken is also displayed here on your card.
We represent about 25 customers who lost at the time about $17 million. So obviously at 95, it's now about 500, so it's a 5x return. Now that case was a class action, but it's now moved into private arbitration.
So that's going into arbitration.
So it's in arbitration.
Fantastic. Tezos. Everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite. I mean, and all of a sudden in the summer of 2017, they raised over, I believe,
$250 million.
$200 million. That's now at the peak was worth even a crazy number. I believe now is worth about $1 billion.
So why are you suing them?
Well, they turned around and they claimed. So now they claim that they're investors, which I call investors, they called investors, but they now claim that those investments were actually donations. And we'll get into whether or not that is a selling a security, not selling a security, but there are a lot of different issues with Tezos, and we'll still say I'm waiting for the blockchain to come out.
But the contracts, what did the contract say? Did the contract say that they're giving a donation, or was it an investment?
Well, it depends. Some people say potato, some people say potato. Not every contract you sign is binding, and there are a lot of people who believe what they got was an investment because Kathleen Brightman, in front of cameras like this, told everybody she was dealing with investors.
And now you're suing them in a class action suit. How big is the suit?
That lawsuit's presently pending in California.
Now, have you had any success in the crypto game against crypto companies?
Yes.
Who have you had success with?
It's the beauty of being a lawyer. You do confidential settlements. Can't answer that one.
Can't get anything out of this guy. Spoken like a true lawyer. Always good to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. With all the demand to cover cryptocurrencies from the East, and especially coverage from China, we had to meet Bianca Chen, a new China correspondent.
Hi, good to see you.
How you doing?
Yeah, let's go.
As the only televised crypto show in the world, we promise to keep our show global. And in this spirit, I've got Bianca Chen with me, who's a China correspondent and specializes in cryptocurrencies. She's also made a documentary called MEXC Blockchain,
yes,
which has been viewed 2.5 million times in China. Bianca, it's such a pleasure to have you on Crypto Trader.
Thank you for having me here today.
Bianca, China, we keep hearing that there's legislation and that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are illegal in China. Is this actually the case?
Well, the Chinese government made it really clear that they are not crypto friendly, but however, at the end of May in a conference, President Xi said blockchain is a revolutionary technology. So a lot of people are questioning, what does that mean? Is China going to change its attitude? Here's my answer. I just came back from China a couple of days ago. I hosted a conference about blockchain in China. The conference has certain connections with government. And in the conference, even it is about the blockchain, but several words were banned in the conference from being used in PowerPoint, such as exchange and cryptocurrency. So, and the biggest topic of the conference is how to implement the blockchain without cryptocurrency. Two takeaways. One, we are going to see more private chains adopted by companies and government agencies. Secondly, cryptocurrency still has zero position on government's agenda. So according to my source, during the meeting, central bank emphasized that there's only one legal fiat currency, which is yuan or renminbi, and no foreign currency or no other form of currency can be accepted as payment.
Not even Bitcoin and not even cryptocurrency.
No.
But are there projects happening in China? Are there exchanges in China? Are people actually buying and selling cryptocurrencies today?
The common users are still very passionate about cryptocurrency, so you can see there's a boom of exchanges among Chinese crypto communities. Even you cannot open an exchange in China, but things are happening. Among my trip, like almost everybody I met had certain project about exchange going on.
But the man in the street, the person who was investing in Bitcoin in China a year ago, are they still trading? Are they still using exchanges?
Oh yeah, definitely. In China, these people have a special name called chives, 韭菜. Like they are these kind of retailer investors. They are trying to get a lot of money from these kind of tradings. So a lot of them, according to my source, they're still doing a lot of trades, but they register their account outside of China to do a lot of kind of trading with different currencies and this and that.
What about blockchain projects? Is the Chinese government supporting blockchain projects? Is the government funding blockchain projects?
I think the Chinese government is very friendly with blockchain without cryptocurrency. I think the reason they are not friendly with cryptocurrency, one is they are making tremendous effort to strengthen renminbi's international status. So cryptocurrency doesn't fit into that strategy. And also they have very strict capital controls. So with cryptocurrency, that will be extremely difficult. But however, China is looking into the potential of this technology, so they are very friendly with the project without the cryptocurrency. So that
sounds to me like a blockchain without cryptocurrencies. It's just another word for a database.
Yes, I agree. Like a lot of times, it's just another safer and faster database.
Bianca, it's so awesome to have you on our show. We will get you on next time. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place on CNBC Crypto Trader. Until then, trade well, my friends.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.